Good morning, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I'm Brian Demhauser, and I'm back here in the great PNW after spending the last week in Indianapolis at the NFL Combine. Nathan Ernst, the intrepid reporter, still in Indy for today, getting every last drop of the Combine with the offensive linemen due to take their test today. In fact, as we speak, Jeff and I were just talking, measurements are coming in for the offensive linemen, and I don't know if there's any position group where the measurements are more important than they are for offensive line, maybe edge rush. But we'll talk about some of those live results as they come in. But I am so excited, one, to be back, but two, to get to talk to my good friend Jeff Simmons at Jeff Simmons. Man, how has your week been?
It's been all right. It's been good. It's been good. Your content was unreal, Brian. I had some of the worst FOMO I've ever had, being not being at the combine, but obviously family comes first this year. But it's funny because one of the reasons I think me and you have gone along so many times, and one of the reasons I fell in love with football relative to other leagues and sports is the draft. I've always loved the draft, and it's always been like a process of where like the combine's like really the first time I get to know the players, and I relied so much on the TV broadcast in my like formative years following football. And this year, and it's really started the last couple of years with me and you doing the Sims and Nathan doing the Sims and Derek and all the stuff we've learned. And I found I've learned so much more about the draft. And I think you, and this is going to kind of sound nerdy, but like I thought you went above and beyond some of the guys down there this week. And like I've relied on the Seahawks beat writers, and not to take shots at any of them. I don't want that to come across like that, but you can see your passion towards this event and like the content that you were able to give Seahawks fans and me and guys who weren't there, like went above and beyond. Just like seeing you and Nathan hustle yesterday with the online group was really cool. And like I've always relied so much on that TV broadcast to learn the players, and I found like coming out of this week, I know so much more than I normally would at this time of year. Usually, I'm just trying to learn who everyone is, and like just seeing name after name, I'm like, oh, I know that guy. Brian said they talked to the Seahawks, or like, and like I could tell like some of the other Seahawks writers, like they were into the Schneider stuff, the McDonald stuff, and then that goes away, and it's probably it. But like seeing all the content come out about the draft and how much we love it is really cool from my end. I'll say that.
That's cool. I mean, I I'm making it up as I go along, as I think everybody knows. I haven't done this before, and just kind of going into it, but not just me, our whole show, you,
Mm-hmm.
Evan, Nathan, Dana, Derek, everybody, Josh, it's all folks that just love the Seahawks and love football, and we've done it for nothing for
Yeah.
all these years, and we've done it as a side thing. So now getting to do it as a kind of my full focus. I honestly went to the combine. I didn't know if I was going to be bored to tears. Like I could have absolutely been like, I don't know, man, this isn't it. It was so energizing, man. I think there's a lot of things that went into that, but I've always, like, the reason I started the blog in the first place was I think there's a difference if you are a fan and if you care that passionately about whether the team wins or loses. I think it changes what questions you ask. I think it changes the persistence of those questions, the depth of those questions, and the lengths you'll go to get to the answers. And I think there's absolutely, like, to your point, like, Bob Condata, I don't think people realize how encyclopedic that guy's knowledge is. Like, you could say something about 1982 Huskies team, and he'll be able to rattle off who is on. Like, unbelievable. I've got so much respect for him. Brady, like, a lot of these guys, unbelievable. Michael Sean Dugar, but there is a difference. There's just a difference. Like, they don't care about some of these things as, like, on a personal level, but they report about it on a professional level. And so I think it's great to have all those. There's room
Yeah.
for all of it.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it was fun this week. And I've already sent a note to the credential folks at the combine. I was like, hey, like, what's the chances I could get like 4 or 5 next year if I ask for a
Yes.
few more? So, I mean, we're gonna take this thing over. I mean, with just Nathan and I, we got like 100+ player interviews posted. 100.
Unreal.
It's crazy. I had no idea. So if we get the whole crew, we'll get Evan there, who will have no idea what's going on. It'll be hilarious.
The funny part is, and like everyone thinks like it's just you go to the combine just to cover the draft, and I'm sure Evan would be like, I don't know anything about the draft, but like it's not just that. Like you can just see watching your show, like networking, getting to know people, getting in front of the people, getting in front of all the teams. Everyone's there, and obviously Evan would be a hilarious presence, I imagine,
Yeah.
at that event. Like, but just seeing like you and Grant, even like yesterday was actually a pretty cool day for Grant. I don't know, not what he was saying about how Indy. Grant
Yeah.
actually came out with a story last year that he took a lot of shit on.
Yeah.
And yesterday really came to light for a lot of people. And if you listen closely to how John Lynch was talking the other day, I don't want to make this 49ers thing, but Grant reported last year that the ownership of the Niners were really pissed off about some of the contracts they'd handed out and wanted them, if they didn't win the Super Bowl, they were going to hammer down on their spending. Everyone's like, oh, Grant, you're just being an asshole, blah, blah, blah. John Lynch made a reference this week during his press conference that sometimes you can't always spend pedal to the metal, and it didn't say much. And then the Deebo Samuel trade comes out yesterday, and that's the thing you caught is like they couldn't trade for Jonathan Allen. And why? Because they didn't want to take on a salary. And then I saw another reporter, I think it was Mike Silver, say that there's a lot of Niners executives and ownership pissed off about the Brandon Ayuk contract. And if you remember the story, is they were about to trade him, and Kyle Shanahan ran up the stairs and stopped them and signed him. That was a cute little story. They got him signed. You were kind of the one saying they blew it. And Grant was, and now you look back and now the story's coming out. They're trying to trade him now. They could have got a first round pick last year in an amazing draft.
They could have had Brian Thomas.
They could have had Brian Thomas. They could have got Jared Verse. They could have got a ton of. Last year was an elite draft. And now the story coming out of 49ers is they have to sign Purdy, or they're trying to, but they've cut down on their cash spending because they're pissed off. And that was exactly what Grant reported, and he took shit. So just want to say, like, cool thing. It was cool to see you guys kind of connect and like, but that Niners story, obviously, like they couldn't take Jonathan Allen because I don't think they want to throw out the cash. That's a really interesting story. And Brady always talks about cash and cap, and 49ers have a ton of cap room. That's an example of where they have a mandate from ownership. They can't spend the cash they've been spending the last couple of years.
Yeah. It was so funny watching Grant at this event because Grant is, I mean, he admitted it. He's like a fish out of water. It was not a good place for him from a content perspective. And I mean, he just would kind of wander around and, um, you know, I felt like I needed to have 7 of me there. Like I wanted to talk to each of the guys. But yeah, I'm glad that things came out in his favor yesterday. It was also fun to see him sparring with David Lombardi as early as this morning on Twitter. You know, always good times. I did see Mr. Lombardi first day, but I didn't see him after that. So who knows what's going on there.
Did you interact with him at all?
No,
That guy.
No interest in doing that. I mean, I spoke to Mike Sando, Dane Brugler, Brandon Thorne, Greg Cosell, Ian Rappaport, Albert Breer, long list of people, you know, and Trevor Sikkema. Just didn't. Yeah, next year I'll probably be a little bit more assertive in getting folks on the show, but it was fun to talk to all those folks.
Well, you got Mike McDonald on the show.
That was crazy.
Yeah.
I still, my nature is still just to be annoyed that I missed John Schneider. That guy's a much harder get. Although Mike McDonald is a great one. So that was fun. It was fun. So if folks haven't already, please give the show click subscribe. We are almost to 15,000 subscribers on the channel. That kind of was the goal I had for each and this week. Let me check where we're at right now. And don't do any false subscriptions, add extra dummy accounts. Let's get real with these. We're at 56 subscribers away from 15,000. So if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, now's the time to do it. The content's only going to get better. Jeff, it's the offseason is going to just like this week. We're going to talk all about the combine and this stuff. Next week is like free agency, dude. Right?
That's crazy. Starts next Monday.
Like,
yeah. Starts next Monday.
And I'm gonna do kind of marathon coverage as much as I'm able to. Like we might do like long shows, and if if you're playing hooky or you're available, you're welcome to join whenever, and we'll talk about every free agent deal, where they're going, what it means, all that kind of stuff.
I hope my boss isn't listening right now, but I'm probably not going to be very productive at work those days. I think it starts at like noon Eastern time or 1 Eastern time where everything just comes out right away. And like I'm refreshing my Twitter like a madman. So if you're doing a show, like I'd much rather talk to you than sit on my phone staring at the news wire. So
Well, I mean, I think if I remember correctly, so it's the 12th is the league year, but the 10th is that legal tampering?
so the 10th is legal tampering. It's like the negotiation window for 2 days, but that's where Adam Schefter says they've agreed to a deal that will become
Right.
official. And it starts to pile out. The big names are all done by the time we actually get to the 12th.
Yeah, like I think we'll start hearing things a week from today, like on the 9th. I think I remember even before legal tampering last year, we started getting some pretty good indications. So like now's a great time. Point being, subscribe. You won't regret it. So Jeff, I know you had FOMO, and we'll get you there. We'll get you there. I promise, my friend. But I want to give you a chance because I figure you had some questions about the combine players, anything, and you're always so inquisitive. So if you had any thoughts, I wanted to give you the opportunity to pepper me with questions.
Well, let's see. You spoke to a lot of offensive line yesterday. You've obviously formed a lot of opinions of who's a good zone blocker, who's a good fit for the Seahawks. Is there anyone that you talked to yesterday that really made an impression on you of like, I want this dude on my team? Like you talked to so many people, I don't imagine for long, but who would have jumped out to you as like, I want this guy as the centerpiece of this O line?
There was a few actually. I mean, the guys that jumped out to me, and I have to kind of characterize it a little differently. Like Jared Wilson, the center, I really liked the conversation with him. And by the way, all the videos are now up there. You can watch all of these conversations up there, and they're available for everybody. Um, I already knew that he was the top graded zone blocking center in this draft and one of the top like five in the whole country. And his just demeanor, like that guy's really comfortable in his own skin. And uh, he did say some teams are saying like they were looking at him as guard too, and he liked that. But I really liked the conversation. I didn't know him that well, and so listening to that kind of stood out to me. Um, Will Campbell is a really interesting one. I already knew I liked him, but one of the things that came out today, Jeff, is his measurements. And this is a guy you and I have talked about. It's like, well, a lot of people had him in the top five, certainly in the top 10, maybe not really a realistic option for the Seahawks. Well, his measurements 6'5", almost 6'6", 319 pounds, 32 and 5/8 inch arms. Not for people that don't know, 34-inch arms is kind of what you're looking for in a tackle. 33 is kind of a cutoff point, I would say. So being under 33 at tackle is short. And his hands, 9.5, which are like 10-inch hands, are kind of like Russell had 10.5-inch hands, like Russell Wilson, to give you some idea. Like those are pretty small hands. And so as a offensive tackle, that arm length, 7th percentile. The hand size, 13th percentile. But if you move him to guard, 23rd percentile, 22nd percentile. And this is a guy that has pretty elite tackle qualities as a player. I think he might be realistic as a player that could fall. And I really encourage people to watch the video I posted of that interview. He's an impressive young man. Yeah, I think he'd be a real leader in that group.
Yeah, so he's cool because like if they don't sign a free agent center, they're gonna have to. It didn't seem like from the interviews that like Olu's a guy. Like I could have seen them come out and be like, we love Olu, like he'll be perfect in the system. They didn't seem to be super excited about him. Like you said, they mentioned Sundell's. For the other question I would have for you is going into the week. I mean, you have done mocks and we looked at like edge and tight end as like, okay, these are positions we think are very obvious for the Seahawks. Noah Fant's a cut candidate. Nuosu, we don't know what's happening. Based on your conversations with McDonald and based on what the presser and it it seems like they're higher on the edge group and the tight end. Fant, I think you mentioned. Is there another position that you think might be more of a need than we thought, or is there anything that like?
Yeah, that's a good question, Jeff. I mean, you're right. So just to restate, I think that there's less likelihood that they're going to be interested in an edge player than I would have guessed. Um, and I think they are pretty high on the young guys that they've got and the ceilings that they think they can get out of them. And then tight end, yeah, no Fant. I mean, it sure seems like he's going to be on the roster. So with that in mind, I still think tight end's a need. Like they got to replace Pharaoh Brown, but maybe they don't feel like it's a pressing thing. I think if you look through it, I think quarterback was the one that probably was most clearly stated by Schneider. I walked away this week with that guy really wants to draft a quarterback. He really does. And now who that is and when that is, I think is up for debate. But I wouldn't say I'll be surprised if they don't take one, but I'm pretty close to that perspective that we should expect the Seahawks to come out of this draft the quarterback. And I think Sam Howell will have to battle for a roster spot. I would not assume that he is safe on this roster. So I think Jackson Dart. I thought Tyler Shuck. I mean, I talked about him before this. I talked about it at the Senior Bowl. He was the only quarterback that I thought kind of got my attention at the Senior Bowl. And he showed out yesterday at the Combine. I think people have been now saying he looked like the most pro-ready quarterback, the people that worked out. This guy's 6'5", has been a running quarterback as well. I don't think that's his game, but he can do that. I think he's a sleeper. I don't know like when you'd have to take him, but I think it could be like a day 3, but I think it could slip all the way up into day 2.
Yeah, did you watch any of the workouts yesterday?
I watched some of them. I was on
Did
a
you
flight.
see
So,
Andrew Janoko was right there, right behind every one of those workouts. So
what is that? Is that like it's not like the Senior Bowl where you're asked to be an on-field coach, or is it like how do you get on?
I
Like,
think
is
anyone
anyone can
I
be
think
down?
anyone could go down there
Is that
if
how
they
it
have
works?
field. I believe if you have field access, anyone could go down there
Interesting.
if you want to scout specific positions.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because he was front and center right there. Rob Staten had a good video, but I can see it from the TV broadcast. I was watching the quarterbacks. Like, if you were like a Quinn Ewers anti guy, like you kind of are, his arm looked pretty good, but his accuracy on out routes was very alarming. There was one where like Isaiah Bond, who we went to school with. So some of the times when the quarterbacks throw, you like they've never thrown to these receivers, but even to his own receivers, when he threw like a deep out, he was missing them, and his arm looked better. Will Howard looked really good on like intermediate routes, but like, he kind of has like a pop gun arm. It's kind of a
Hmm.
weak arm, and so I don't know. I think he'd be good in this offense, but yeah, Tyler Shuck looked really good relative. Milrow, like his deep ball just hung in the air. There's times where it's just like, and like the receiver had to like stop and wait for the ball to land. So
Dude.
Dart
Yeah,
looked
go.
super
Finish your
comfortable.
thought. Finish
No,
your
I was
thought.
gonna say so. Like I'm with you. I think they're gonna draft the quarterback this year. I think round 3, round 4, somewhere in there. But I don't know. Some people like crushed me for taking Tyler Shuck in the 6th round in my mock a couple weeks ago.
I know. I know.
Like,
I've been seeing these videos on Twitter of like Jalen Milrow making a deep pass, completing a deep pass, and people saying like, "Yeah, quote Jalen Milrow has accuracy issues." Sure. I hope the people watching this are smart enough to know that Jalen Milrow is already known as a deep ball thrower. Like that's the one pass that he is good at consistently. That's not an accuracy thing. Like there can be deep ball accuracy as its own thing, but the percentage of throws, like there's other videos if you watch his workout yesterday where he's thrown it against air and he's thrown it over the receiver's head out of bounds. Like I'm talking about complete route tree accuracy. He's not an accurate thrower. So it doesn't mean that he's not a great kid because he is, and I think has a lot to offer, and it's going to work his ass off, and maybe he'll overcome. But there's nothing I saw yesterday that made me think he's an accurate passer.
yeah.
Yeah, I thought Tyler Shuck was impressive, and I thought Jackson Dart is another guy
He
that
looked comfortable.
looked good, and I just keep coming back to the way his teammates talk about him. I think that speaks volumes about a guy that can come in and be a leader, and that matters in a locker room. So he's the guy that if think about what John Schneider when he took Russell Wilson, what did he say was the deciding factor about why he wanted to take him?
I think it was moving the room or
He tilted the room,
tilted the
right?
room. Yeah, that's
Right,
the
or
quote.
tilted the field. I think there's multiple things he said there, but that's what I think he might get from interviews and talking about Jackson Dart is this is a guy that kind of tilts the room. And, you know, I don't think that this guy's destined to be a great quarterback, but I think he's one of the only guys that if they take him in the second round, I could be like, okay, there's enough there that I think that's a understandable decision to make.
Yeah. So other questions I would have for you is our buddy Derek always says like pre-combine mock drafts are silly. Like now that we're pretty much done other than the O line, like who are the guys whose stock has dropped watching them or talking to them? Like I know Gunnar Helm and Tez Johnson were pretty disappointing in terms of their 40 times. Anyone who's like stock, like we can talk about stock up after, but like is anyone stock like you thought like okay, I like this guy here and now seeing them or talking to them, you're like,
Savion Williams, I think it was not impressive to speak with, and I think he's going to turn off a lot of teams in interviews. I thought, thinking through some of the names. I mean, on the let's see. I'm gonna kind of look through a big board because it'll give me a bigger chance to recall some of the guys that I talked to. I thought, Travis Hunter doing a lot of no comments, I thought was kind of interesting. I thought one of the guys that maybe hurt himself the most was Shador Sanders.
yeah,
Um,
his buzz coming out of the combine is horrible.
I think not choosing not to throw, and I don't know. I think a lot of people had some not so great feelings about him. Um, who else? Scrolling through. Yeah, I don't have a bunch of guys that like. I mean, I already came into this as not a huge Josh Connerly Jr. guy.
Yeah.
Super nice kid. Um, he doesn't have the like killer mentality that I would want if the Seahawks were taking offensive linemen. So I think he kind of goes on the list, not as a bad person, but just maybe not a guy there. Oh, um, Jordan Birch
Oh
was
yeah.
someone I was, I've been really excited about, not super thrilled. The fact that Cam Scatabo didn't end up speaking to media, and or did he? Maybe I missed it. I don't want to misspeak there. I didn't see him speak to media. And then didn't run the 40. It leaves me with some questions there. I mean, his speed is not his game, but like, how slow are we talking about? Um, and then who else? Scrolling through, there's more guys that like impressed me than guys that did not.
So why don't we ask that? Who impressed you that you've not?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about Dart. I think that Tyler Booker certainly impressive in person. No doubt about that. You know, I thought Donovan Jackson was awesome. Really, really impressive to talk to him. I really like Terrence Ferguson. This is a guy that I've been talking about since, before the Senior Bowl, but during it and after. He ended up with the fastest 40 time of the tight ends and did meet with the Seahawks, I believe. And um, he's really comfortable. Like, he's one of those guys where it's like he's not trying to prove anything. He's comfortable with who he is. Mason Taylor's the same way.
Yeah, he
I
was
already kind of
awesome.
knew that.
Yeah,
Um, and so, yeah, I think a lot of the Jeffrey Bassa, really, really impressive young man, and going to be a leader. And I think a lot of the players at the Senior Bowl also talked about that. Tate Ratledge, hard not to love that guy. I mean, um, really interested in what he'll kind of do strength wise. I'm curious about his bench today. Like, how strong is he? He Not exactly the most ripped guy you'll ever see up there, but I'm kind of curious about that. Um, David Walker's really likable, the edge rusher. And I've already talked about Jamari Caldwell being, likable. JJ McGee's
Yeah,
super
he was
likable.
cool. He did fullback drills.
He did. He looked pretty good.
Yeah.
He looked pretty good. I think Jack Kaiser also, again, reinforced my perspective about him being one of the most impressive people all week. Olufemi Oladejo,
Yeah.
edge from UCLA. That guy, I mean, again, like these are impressive people. How are they going to be like as players? It's always a little hard to say.
Hmm.
I will say Kyle McCord switching back the other way, he did not give me leader of a room vibes.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see him just being like, we're in day 3 and we're looking at the top of the board and we're like, why is Kyle McCord still there? And he sits there and he sits there. There's always one of those guys. Last year was Rattler. Last year was a couple of years ago with someone else. But like, there's always a couple of those guys on the media boards that are there. It's like, there was that center from Ohio State a couple of years ago that hasn't worked out. I could see him as one of those guys.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, Upton Stout. I mean, I loved watching him like his workout. He's small, but he's mighty, man. He's
Yeah.
like really thick, and I think he's going to be a really good player. I liked watching him. So, yeah, those are a few of the guys that I think kind of stood out. Cameron Jackson, I also really like talking to him, and continue to think he's got a chance. One of the guys that I think is still a sleeper. He showed out yesterday as Isaac Tesla, wide receiver out of Arkansas. He's a freaky athlete, and I think a lot of people are sleeping on him. So I'm kind of curious where things go for him, but he was pretty impressive. A couple other guys that kind of on the opposite side, Jaden Blue talking about he's going to run 4.1 and he runs like 4.36, and Arian Smith, he didn't say he was going to break the record, but sprinter, he's running 4.36. Like those guys, and then you got Tez Johnson, who I thought had a great podium session, saying like, "Blink and you'll miss me if I run to 40," and he runs like a 4.5.
4.55.
You know,
Yeah, Daniel Jeremiah was cringing when the time came up because he was like, "This guy's so fast. He's one of the lightest people ever tested. I think he was 150 pounds."
yeah,
And when they saw 4.55, and they're like, "All right, he's gonna do it the second time," and it was 4.56,
yeah.
and
Uh,
it was hard for them to kind of get through that broadcast yesterday because there was a lot of receivers that looked pretty good, like in the drills, like that 40 time from him and Gunnar Helm was like 4.9 or something.
that was the funniest. That was my favorite part of the week, maybe. Nathan had been totally talking up Gunnar Helm. That's his guy. He's like, I'm going to talk to him, and excited. And then we catch him running the 40, and he's just like, I mean, it was the most uncoordinated. Like, literally looked like he was just learning to walk. And
Oh no.
a 4.93 flashes up there, and Nathan just goes, "Oh."
Oh, poor Nathan.
It was so good, dude. It was so good.
Oh man.
I think that guy, yeah, he's certainly fallen down a lot of boards.
So let me ask you about a couple players. Like on TV, the guys who obviously were like the stars of the combine, Shamar Stewart, like Greg Cosell's comments to you yesterday were obviously like to ask you a little bit more on that. I thought Jahad Campbell, the linebacker, blew me away. Just how different he looked moving than the other linebackers. I'd start to like being like, maybe the Seahawks could like him. And then I watched him work out and I'm like, he's not going to be at 18. So obviously the safety from South Carolina, your guy from the week. Oh my God. He was watching him be that athletic at 6'3", 220. I thought he was really cool. I thought Jack Besh running the drills yesterday. He didn't run a 40, but he ran in the drills yesterday. I thought it was really good. And the running back class, like you hear a lot about it's hyped, and I know like people were cringing when Schneider said it. Then you watch these guys go, and it's like, holy shit, like one after another. These times there might be like 20 running backs drafted in the first 5 rounds, and like a bunch of them could start. But I don't think that's a big Seahawks related need. But like, so Shamar Stewart, like I heard the comments from Greg Cosell yesterday. Obviously, were a little shocking considering how athletic. Like if him and Annuary are there, at 18, like, who are you taking right now?
I
Well,
mean,
I guess we can do that in a mock.
Emin for me was the star of the week, and I think there's a big gap between him and everybody else.
Hmm.
You know, he already is a great player and has proven it. I mean, people are just now starting to watch his film, and it's like, oh yeah, he's really good too. You can find him making like 4, 5, 6 interceptions where he steps back underneath a throw, reads his zone properly, gets to right depth. He gets to depth so fast because the quarterbacks don't expect him to be able to move that quickly. Great hands, just like a sublime athlete, you know? And then to put up those numbers to go along with that film, I think there's a really strong case to be made he should be a top 10 pick. Like, I really do. In this class, show me someone else. Like, people are like, there's not a Joe Alt kind of clean eval in this class for offensive linemen. I'm like, yeah, but there is at safety, and like, I think he should be the top safety taken. I think he's got, when you got that kind of athletic profile with that kind of tape, the guy played cornerback previously, and you heard Greg Cosell yesterday, like, juxtaposing him with Shamar Stewart. He's
Yeah.
like, one guy has tape, one guy does not. And so this is one of the preeminent, film breakdown guys out there. I've been doing it for decades. So I'm not sure he's going to be there for the Seahawks at 18. If he is, I almost think it would be a real mistake to let him go by.
Yeah, no, and it was obviously very interesting timing with the Rayshawn Jenkins story coming out that
Mm-hmm.
he's probably going to get cut. I don't think anyone's trading for him.
No.
If you see the safety market in free agency, there's a lot of names there. I think they're doing a solid just to put that out there. But they need another safety, and we've seen what McDonald's done with safeties in this defense. Yeah, he was a guy I wasn't even looking at, and now it's like that might be the cleanest pick they could make, other than like a Tyler Booker, or Will Campbell, something like that. But like, what I'm trying to figure out is if it's not O line round one, like, where's it gonna be? Is it D tackle? Is it him? It's
We'll do it. We'll do it. We're going to do, I haven't done a
yeah,
mock draft for a while. You and I are going to get to do at least one, probably a couple today, because
yeah,
I think I want us to do one where we focus, it doesn't have to be exclusively, but we focus on players that have been linked to the Seahawks. Now we know who they've met with. Not every name, but we've got a good list. And also, like, a mock where we consider, maybe it'll be the same mock, but, we take Emin Worry first. I've not done a mock where we've done that and seen how the draft board falls in that situation. I think things are going to be really shifting on boards. Like, Will Campbell's a
yeah.
good example of that. Gray Zabel, who we love, he had like 32-inch arms. I want to make sure I get that correct, but this just came out this morning. Yeah, so 32-inch flat arms. He's 6'5". He's almost 6'6", 312, 9.5-inch hands, 32-inch arms. That's pretty small. Now, Daniel Jeremiah has a nice comp there. Joe Tooney had 32.25-inch arms, but he did have a 79-inch wingspan versus 77.5. So Zabel, like, he is, like, there's a reason he's a small college guy. He's not quite the same behemoth that some of these other guys are. I think I saw Detail Oriented in chat asking, like, hey, how do you feel about measurements and how important they are? I think they do get overblown in some cases, and great players are great players. But arm length for offensive linemen and defensive linemen is legitimately important. And just to, like, spend 10 seconds on this, you cannot, like, there's so much arm length related work. So I'll go to the side here. You can't really see it, but if you just anybody go and put your arm against a wall and lean against it, with your hand flat against it, and think about whether somebody else had arms that were 3 or 4 inches longer. Think about them being able to reach you before you're able to reach them and lock you out, and you're not able to get your hands on them. Like, you're literally like, alligator arms can't reach them. And even if you can, how do you get power as a lineman? It's with bend in your arms and being able to have some, like, push. if your arms are fully extended, you're not going to be able to really like push out. So arm length does really matter. And there's players that simply cannot play a position in the NFL because you're going against the biggest, longest guys, something that's 6'6" with 34-inch arms. There's a guy, Hollis, I think Hollis Pierce, measured like the longest wingspan in like combine history today. Like, makes a difference. And you can't teach that. You can't teach or coach around that. So I don't think it maybe eliminates a player, but you got to be really careful. What scouts will say, right, Jeff, is you can take exceptions to your rules, but you shouldn't take very many.
Yeah, then you become a team of exceptions.
Exactly. Exactly. So I do think arm length is a pretty important one relative to others.
Yeah,
For,
the Pete Carroll teams were very specific for years about measurements and arm length and testing. And I think testing's another big one. Like Josh Norris from Underdog, he does a really cool thing with offensive line. There's a certain number of tests that provides like a pretty good indication of who's most likely going to hit in the draft. And like Abe Lucas was one of the guys who passed all those tests. And so like the shuttle and things like that and arm length, they really mattered. Like when you looked at like the Harbaugh teams in Baltimore, and Schneider always talks about Baltimore and how much they're kind of aligned in how they do things. Like they want to win coming off the bus. Like they don't want to be the big small teams. And you look at how much bigger the Seahawks have gotten on the D line in the last couple of years. It means a lot to imagine Mike McDonald, who when that Baltimore team was going a few years ago on defense, it wasn't just they're dominant. They looked just bigger. Like they had Clowney and Kyle Hamilton and Matabuke and Pierce, and like they just looked like monsters. The corners were pretty big. Like Marlon Humphrey's not a small guy, and like that's I imagine what Mike McDonald's ideal team looks like. So I definitely think, and Zabel's an interesting one for me because like he's kind of like who I imagine the Seahawks are talking about, where they're like, we don't want to push a player up the board because of need. Because from like a clean fit standpoint, he's almost perfect. But is he worth the 18th pick? I don't think I'm there
I
yet.
don't think he is.
I don't think he is, and that's where it's like, if they take him at 18, I think a lot of Seahawks fans would be like, great, they got offensive line. Like what? I think that's a dangerous kind of move where you're pushing a guy up who's probably more like the 30th ranked player, maybe 31, like somewhere in that range. And it's like that's what the Seahawks kind of try to talking about with that whole you don't want to draft for need. But like you talked to McDonald and you were at like, was there anything you learned from him that caught you off guard, or like I know you've talked about certain players, but like anything that jumped out to you relative to like what they may do in free agency or what they may do in the draft?
Not as much that way. I
Yeah.
think that I think one of the things that was most encouraging to me in talking to Mike McDonald, and the press conference, by the way, is up on the site, so you can check out that. I asked him at the very end of the press conference about analytics and getting involved with the scouting analytics, and I thought his answer was interesting. That like Brian Ayers is a guy we know has been helping him with managing analytics based decisions on game day, but getting into the personnel side, that's pretty important. And I just do think that he's got a different mind for that kind of concept than I think John Schneider does. It doesn't mean John's incapable, but you know, there might be like interpersonal things or EQ things that John Schneider has that might not have in the same way. So like everyone's got strengths and less strengths. So that was the thing that was interesting to me, speaking to Mike.
So that's cool. So Jeremy Fowler and Dan Graziano put out there what we heard the combine story, and
Mm-hmm.
most of it was lingering on like quarterbacks. There was a note in there that said the Seahawks are lurking around the interior offensive line market. Me and you convince yourself every year in free agency that okay, this is going to be their year. They're going to do it different. And then the first 2 days of free agency happens, and all the names are starting to get crossed out. One of the stories in there was that the Falcons are preparing to move on from Drew Dalman. They think his price. They have a center in the building they like. Are you buying that note, or is it going to be like, oh, we tried and finished second? Like, when you read something like that, or you see something like, where does your mind go?
Well, I don't think that John Schneider is going to be the guy that spends no matter what to get something done.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is only patreon.com/hawkblogger members have the access to this, but I've got the audio of the extended off podium interview with John Schneider from the combine. And I asked him specifically about experience on the line. And do you need that, or can you just like add a rookie in there? And he's like, no, we need experience. And they're not going to add it at tackle. They could add it at guard, but we also know center is a position where Clint Kubiak's emphasized that. Clint Kubiak, you could hear him in his press conferences always talk. People think I'm over reading into it, but I believe it. Every time he talked about player acquisition, free agency was the first thing he mentioned. And I think in his mind, he might be thinking of Drew Dahlman, like one of his first acquisitions, Eric McCoy, for the Saints. I think it's real. I think that's probably their top free agent target, and I think they're willing to spend real money to get him. I think that's not a report based off of any source. That's me
Yeah.
interpreting what I've heard. But yeah, I think that's likely. And Jeff, I guess I'd turn around to you. Let's play the game that they get him, that they get Drew Dahlman.
Yeah.
How do you think that changes things?
It lets the draft come to them at a much better level. And I think the people hoping that they're going to get 3 upgrades at interior offensive line, I think that's probably unrealistic. But I think if you get a guard in the first 2 rounds of the draft with Dahlman, or you get another free agent in there, I think it really rounds out the group. I think it sets you up for the draft that you're not chasing as much. And I think center, especially a young center that's a zone blocker, I think it could have like a domino effect on their entire offensive line. I think that's the kind of move that Leonard Williams was to their defensive line. I don't think Dahlman's that level of player, but I think from like a team building standpoint, I think it sets them up amazingly well versus maybe get a James Daniels at guard and hope that hits. And I don't know if that's the guy, but I think no player really, because Trey Smith's off the market, that could help the Seahawks from a roster building standpoint is better for them than Drew Dahlman right now.
Yeah, and I think the way that kind of shapes the offseason is you get your veteran in the middle of your line.
Yeah.
You then you draft a guy within the first 2 rounds that you really like that can hopefully slide in at, competition for guard and hopefully start. And then you've got one of Satawa Laumea, Christian Haynes, Jalen Sundell, a long list of other guys that rises for that other position. And I think that's a really reasonable way to go. Now, if you tell me that you get Drew Dahlman and you draft Armand Membu, then you're talking about not only having, a great center, but I think you're talking about an elite guard prospect who's physical. And if anything happens with Abe Lucas, you've got, a true tackle option there as well, and a lot of other guards that can kind of grow. So, Drew Dahlman, for people, again, just that don't know, from an overall run blocking perspective, he was the 6th graded run blocker at center last year in the league. He was the 6th graded zone blocking center in the league. Eric McCoy, Clint Kubiak's former center, was number 1. So you're talking about Eric McCoy, Creed Humphrey, Frank Ragnow, Tyler Linderbaum, Joe Tippmann, and then Drew Dahlman. So, he's graded over in the 80s, 82. And I think that's been pretty consistent for him throughout his career. He's only 26 years old. So, Jeff, at what price point do you say pass? Don't do it.
21 million?
Really? That high? Holy cow, dude.
I'd go up to like 18 million, I think, on him, where I'd be comfortable.
Wow.
It's a lot, but the cap has gone up and it's going to keep going up. I think it's that important to their team.
He was, by the way, the 3rd highest rated zone blocking center the year before at 90.9, behind Connor Williams and one other player. And by the way, Connor Williams had a pretty good zone blocking run grade last year. They just didn't do They didn't do a lot of outside zone last year that would have showcased Connor Williams a lot more than what they did. And if we go back the year before that, he's still top 10. So
It's a
I'm
high number. I think Greg
I'm like
Rosenthal reported.
12 or 13, man. Like
Yeah,
if they get up to 15, I could kind of squint my eyes and get it, but like I don't think I cannot see going over 15.
no, I think 18 is where I would go just because of the cap. And there's talk that he might get like I think it was overestimation, but Rosenthal reported on his show that people think he could get 20. I think that's an overestimation.
That's crazy. Uh,
I think that's too much. I think 18's pushing it. I could swallow it because I think it's that big of a need. But a month ago, I would have said like 12 to 15 would probably be my guess for him. I think it's probably another 2 to 3 million.
yeah. Yeah.
Trey
Wow.
Smith coming off the market is not great for the Seahawks perspective because that means a lot of people are going to shift to other guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and he got what we kind of expected, 23 million bucks. Got a bunch of super chats. Let's get to some of these. We got to do our mock and some other stuff as well. Here is a question from Ben Kasperson. Says, what did you guys think of Carson Schlesinger, getting round one buzz from Jeremy Fowler? He's my dream linebacker for Seattle. Him and EJ, chef's kiss. Any thoughts here, Jeff?
I really like the player. I just have trouble slotting him in to where, like, yeah, is he going to be there at 50 anymore? I don't know. I think he's a really clean off the field. I think someone's going to take him. If you don't get an O lineman in the first round, can you take a linebacker there where you have Tyrese Knight? I think he's going to be out of range for them. So I think he'd be a really good fit, but I just can't seem to slot him in where it makes sense.
Yeah, and the thing I'd add there is I really liked what I heard from Demetrius Knight,
Yeah, he
former
looked great, man.
former quarterback. I hadn't known that about his background. And hear him talk about how it affects his ability to play the position. Thought he was great. I like Jack Kaiser a lot. I think Jack Kaiser gives you a lot of what Carson Schlesinger gives you, and I think you can get him a lot later. So I'm looking for the Seahawks to get a depth linebacker, not a starting linebacker. And so Schlesinger, good for him, but I don't think the Seahawks, if he's going to be in the first two rounds, I don't think they should be spending a first day one or an early day two pick on that. Mr. Puppy gives away 10 Hawk Blogger memberships. Thank you, Mr. Puppy. Hopefully Mrs. Puppy's doing well. Hawks fan Matt Man with Super Chat says, do you think Seattle might want Uchenna Nwosu to take a lower prove-it kind of deal after his injury? Seems unfair, but that's the NFL sometimes. What's your latest thought here, Jeff?
I think I don't know the extent of that level, but that's what they're doing. They're trying to lower the cap number. I imagine they're trying to put up a deal together that is going to be more incentive laden. He's had a lot of bad luck. I wouldn't say it's like injuries that are predictive of future injuries, but my guess is the way that deal is going to set up is they're going to lower their cap number, give him a lot of incentives, and essentially a prove it kind of deal because he frankly hasn't been on the field much the last 2 years. And I don't think Uchenna wants to hit free agency in this market. So I think that's what's going to happen. You're right. That is the unfortunate reality of when you can't stay healthy. You're seeing it with Jair Alexander in Green Bay. He might get cut. And he was a Pro Bowl corner a couple years ago. So, yeah, I think that's dead on.
Nunya, who's been a member for a couple months, says, Brian, is James Pierce falling out of the first round? James Pierce had a pretty good combine from had put up really fast 40 time. I think he did everything I'd expect him to do. Maybe he didn't do well in interviews. Am I missing some story around James Pierce, Jeff?
I think there was a story from a reporter who was like saying like the things he heard. I think I sent it to you guys. I think one of the things he heard was that Pierce didn't have a lot of love in the league. But I think from a testing standpoint, he did pretty well. I didn't hear him interview specifically, but I think in this draft, he'll still end up in the first round.
Yeah, I mean, I think James Pierce, to me, I am not paying close attention to James Pierce because I just don't think he's a fit for what the Seahawks do.
Same.
But yeah, I mean, we will find out a little bit more as the days go on. We've got from Don Hester 5 Hawk Blogger memberships that he has gifted, which is awesome. And then we've got a bunch more still. Vukasin Kovacevic, hopefully I nailed that, says, if John thinks there's a QB in this draft class that has a chance to be in the top 15 in the league in 2 to 3 years, would you be okay spending the 18th pick? Jeff, where are you on that?
If John thinks there's a QB in this draft class that has a chance to be in the top 15, I'd like to have a word with him. I'm not sure. I'm not sure it's there. If there was like who would it have to be? Jackson Dart? I would be pretty uncomfortable. I don't think it's worthy of the 18th pick. I think there's always an opportunity cost to whoever you take. I think the opportunity cost of what they'd have to forgo to indicate that, I think that would be pushing a need up the board or creating something in your head. I don't think that exists.
There's no quarterback that I would be okay with them taking at 18 this year. I mean, if Cam Ward happened to slip, then that would make some sense. But look, I mean, for all the loyals out there, which we love you the most, we love all of you, but especially the folks that are with us so constantly. You heard me say well before this combine, if Shedeur Sanders fell to us at 18, I wouldn't want them to take him. I don't think there's a big enough difference between Shedeur Sanders and some of the other quarterbacks that it warrants the opportunity cost of not taking some of the more talented players. I mean, you pass on Nick Emanwari to take one of these quarterbacks, like to take Shedeur Sanders? No, I wouldn't. So I think Shedeur Sanders has fallen like a rock, and we'll see what happens with him. But that's kind of where I see it. And then Bryce Coots, who is just unbelievably generous, says, hi, Brian. Amazing draft coverage by you and the rest of your crew. I can't stress enough how great it has been to have this info. Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you. Thank you. Really means a lot. And he also gives 10 Hawk Blogger memberships. Bryce is like unbelievably generous. Really, really, really appreciate it. Garth, you never know what Garth is going to ask. He's got some oddball questions. He said, Brian, did you feel being at the combine in person made you able to notice discrepancies in talent not seen on TV? That's a pretty standard question. I would say yes, especially for the DB drills, because you're able to they pick and choose what they're going to show you on TV.
Yeah, you don't see much.
You're able to watch the DBs do the coming in and out of breaks drills one after the other, and your eyes just notice differences in how they move and how they're like where there's tightness, where there's fluidness. Azariah Thomas is a guy that has had first round buzz, second round buzz for sure. Nathan and I both were like, it doesn't seem sudden enough to me. Like he just seems, when he's changing direction, it's very much like water flowing as opposed to like, real urgency to it. So yeah, I thought Kobe Bryant, another guy I really loved and I thought showed out. I thought Jabbar Muhammad showed out really well in that as well. Did you see the story that they mismeasured his vertical?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, came out.
How does
They
that
measured
happen?
it as a 29-inch vert. It was actually a 36-inch vert.
That's a huge
It makes me wonder, like, can you imagine, like, the effect this has on these guys' careers with,
because 29 would be a pretty small.
yeah. Detail oriented says, Brian, do you think Nick E is good enough to target by the Hawks if there's opportunity to move up to show you 2 to 3 spots, or do you wait until 18 and hope? Jeff, I think you and I are the same here. You don't trade up unless there's a quarterback, and I don't think there's a quarterback you trade up for in this class.
No, unless it's like an impact. Like the only like non-quarterback would be like a game-wrecking defensive lineman that you were so certain on that just wouldn't. But to move up for a safety, that would be a close to an F kind of move. Even if it's a good player.
You can't do it. As much as I love the guy, you can't do it. Last super chat we got here, Dogzilla Monster says, how many teams may prioritize O-line in the first?
A lot.
This is interesting, Jeff. I mean, the buzz around the combine was like not a great offensive line class. I feel like it's pretty good.
Yeah, I think what like a lot of people mean by that is there's no like Joel, like clean top 10. Pretty much in every draft you find like a left tackle. Like a couple years ago there was Andrew Thomas, and other years there's just like clean left tackles. That's who goes in the first round typically. Not a lot of guards. This year there isn't that guy. Like there's Membu is a really cool prospect. Will Campbell is a really cool profile. Kelvin Banks does some cool things, but all of them considered guys that might move inside. There's no Josh Simmons is coming off a major injury. There just isn't that guy. So I think when teams see that, they're like, okay, this is not a good offensive line draft. But that you go through name after name, there's a lot of depth and there's a lot of interesting names. And I don't think it's a bad offensive line draft. I just think if you're like New England, you're picking fourth, usually there's some obvious left tackle to take. If they
Yeah.
took Will Campbell, it's like, hey, are you sure about that? But
Yeah, he exits here with real questions based off of those measurables for sure.
that's if you need a tackle, which most teams drafting offensive line in the first round do, not ideal. If you need a guard like a Miami or a Chicago or something like that, I think there's a lot of cool players.
So let me quickly before we do some a mock, let me quickly run down the guys that have been linked to the Seahawks and that we've confirmed met with the Seahawks. I won't get every single name, but I'll try to get most. So safety Nick Emenwari, we've talked about him. Terrence Ferguson, the tight end, had an informal, not a formal, but did meet with the Seahawks. Jalen Conyers, who is the guy I kind of enjoy, that's a tight end, fullback, wildcat quarterback. He met with the Seahawks. Cornerback Kobe Bryant, who we put out a short about my conversation with him. It went massively viral. I think like 1 million people have watched it at this point. He has met with the Seahawks. Azrae Thomas, the cornerback that I just mentioned that I didn't think had a great movement combine. 6'2" cornerback. He met with the Seahawks. So it's a couple corners, very different size. Quarterback Jackson Dart has met with the Seahawks. Armand Membu, tackle guard, has met with them. Clay Webb, Cam Williams, the tackle / guard from Texas, who we haven't spent a lot of time on, but I think is a big project, but a very talented athlete. Center Jared Wilson has met with them. Gray Zabel, who we've talked about, met with them. Jalen Rivers has met with them. Tate Ratledge, Jonas Avenaya, the guard from University of Arizona. Will Campbell has met with them. Brandon Crenshaw Dixon, a tackle, has met, I think, from Florida. Donovan Jackson, Tyler Booker. Those are the guys that off the top I know have met with them. Some of the names that we've talked about that did not meet with them include Connor Colby, guard, Josh Connerly, Anthony Benton did not meet with them. And, a slew of others that we can talk about another time. But that's, with that list, Jeff, I'm curious, as I went through, any of those that kind of got your blood pumping a little bit more than others?
I really like the Donovan Jackson from Ohio State. I was really excited to see that. I wasn't sure what he would be in the zone scheme. Tyler Booker is an interesting guy for the zone scheme. Connor Colby, someone I pointed out to you, is like someone I thought was a fit. So it was sort of like, whoa, maybe I got that one wrong, or maybe they have enough information. But it's interesting to see them meet with some of the bigger offensive linemen, and Booker and Donovan Jackson right now are the guys like I really like as players. I think they're clean. I'm very excited to see the Seahawks, and obviously the Will Campbell one is cool because if he slips, I'd be very curious what their review of him is. And I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility he slips, but I think right now like Donovan Jackson, Booker are two guys that like I think I would be like pretty close to over the moon if they took him.
I think Clay Webb's also a guy to keep an eye on, not in an early round, but he really struck me as a guy that the Seahawks would love, and they met with him. So I think he's a guy that could be a late round option and one to keep an eye on. All right, so I think we got one more super chat, and then we'll get to a mock. You good to do a mock after this, Jeff?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. Kevin Carlson asked, any new thoughts on tight ends in this draft? Where would you choose one? In a couple of your mocks, a good tight ends have passed you, if not taken early. Yeah. I mean, I talked about Terrence Ferguson. Elijah Arroyo did not participate. I mean, he did his interview session, but did not participate in drills. I thought most of the other tight ends didn't really stand out.
For me, Jackson Haas. I think Jackson Haas, just hearing his quotes and hearing him talk, just sounded like kind of a badass. And from like a profile, he has a lot of Will Dissly to me. Dissly's a little bit bigger. but in terms of just like blocking, they yeah, we get Nathan's dude in like the 5th round now. But
For people that are listening, not watching, Nathan Ernst, our intrepid reporter on site, says he hears there's a discount on Gunner now. And Nathan, I told you I was going to actually invite you to this, and I totally forgot to do it. So if you're listening and you want to join, shoot me a text,
yeah,
and
come in for the mock, man.
yeah, I'll send you the invite link right now, so you can join if you want.
But anyway, yeah, I thought Haas. I think he could be like a very high level blocker. And I think he can. And he said he like wants to run through people's faces or something. And what I heard from I think it was Ryan Fowler or someone else from your show said that he was sneaky good at running routes at the Senior Bowl. So I see a lot of Will Dissly where like people thought he couldn't run routes at all. And then that first like training camp, it's like, oh, this guy's actually a pretty good tight end. I think Haas could be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely found it interesting who the Seahawks met with and who they chose not to. I was surprised about Kelvin Banks being a guy that they had not met with. That was an interesting one. And yeah, we'll Nathan said he'll join to do mocks. Awesome. So
sweet. Nathan's a mock.
We'll start. I sent him the invite link. So hopefully he joins here in a second. And by the way, part of the reason Nathan wasn't on is he's been busy uploading more videos. There is now one of the stars of the combine, wide receiver Jalen Knoll.
He was good.
Interview with him is now up on the site, available for anyone that is a club level or higher member. It'll be available for everyone else later, but hopefully all of the club level members are enjoying their exclusive access to all these videos. We're now well over 100 videos. It's crazy. So there is actually a playlist with all the player interviews. So you can just like get one playlist. It's on YouTube and look at player interviews, and it will show up for all of those guys. Here is the man, the myth, the legend, Nathan Ernst. What is all that stuff hanging behind you? Are you in a network? Oh,
it's a photo.
It looked like network cables hanging down from a ceiling. I'm like, are you in the depths of some Ethernet?
No, I'm
center?
staying at the same very high class Holiday Inn Express that you stayed at, and there's some really great artwork here.
It is a classy joint, and I'm glad to know that the internet is good enough that we can actually hear you and see you. So that's surprising.
I thought this was going to be real dicey, so I'm glad it's working out. If it's terrible, let me know.
Before we get into our mock, any reflections from you? You were there yesterday for at least part of the activity while they're doing throwing sessions.
Mm-hmm.
What anything stand out to you one way or another?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I bailed a little bit early on the second group, but I thought Jackson Dart definitely looked like the best of the bunch from the quarterbacks that were throwing. I thought Riley Leonard showed me a little bit more with his arm than I thought he had. I think how much arm he has might not really matter because, like, some of these guys just have captain check down in their blood. And I'm not sure you can get that out of Riley Leonard. But it's good to know that the ability is there at least. For receivers, it's crazy to me that we had three guys that were talking about breaking the record. Isaiah Bond was like the biggest name. Jaden Blue said he was going to do it. And Arian Smith, there was talk about whether he could do it or not. None of those guys got close. And then the guy who actually ran the best time was Matthew Golden, who was another Texas guy. And I don't think anyone saw that coming. No one, I think, thought he was going to be slow, but that was a shock to see him. I think his official time got under the 4.3, right?
4.29.
Yes.
4.29, yes. Right. So that was really cool because he's a guy that I've really liked for a long time. Offsets the gunner thing. So I was really happy about that.
Yeah, I remember during the college playoff, Nathan put a message in our chat being like, this Golden guy is awesome. I had not watched a lot of college football this year. And I just remember watching like his acceleration during that playoff game. And I mean, that's Nathan pointed out how good he was. And then seeing him run yesterday, it's like this dude's going to the first round. Like this dude's really good.
The other guy that I liked a lot. I liked his interview a lot, and I liked watching him actually out in the drills too with Jaden Higgins. I'm gonna have to get his interview up if the hotel Wi-Fi will cooperate with me. But he was really fun. Of all the guys that I talked to, he was the guy that I would most like to just hang out with, and you know, he seemed like a cool guy to be buddies with. And he even kind of described himself that way. Is he there? I'll go over. I'll run over to her. I'll brave Hooters to hang out with him.
Dogzilla, for people listening, is suggesting that Nathan goes over to Hooters in Indy, in downtown Indy, and have lunch with Gunnar Helm. So
It's one of the more prominent restaurants downtown.
it is a really prominent. It's like Broadway, like big lights on it, like Hooters. You're like, all right, I get it.
But Jaden Higgins, I thought he also looked. I've heard people talk about receivers with like quiet hands before, and it's always kind of been a weird thing to me. But I thought of all the receivers, he just caught the ball really naturally. Every catch felt really like just soft. I don't know if that makes sense, but he was one of the guys I was watching and rooting for, and it was good. I thought he did everything really well in the drills, and the interview was great.
All right, let's do a mock draft, you guys. And I think there's gonna be is it flawed as well as these always are, because not only are they just flawed in general, but they haven't updated with their latest, rankings and all that. So who knows which one's the best one to do. I'm gonna choose for us that we do this Pro Football Network one. We'll see how we feel about it, and if we really hate it, then we can change it. I mean, it's got Shedeur Sanders going number 1, which I think is definitely not going to happen. Will Campbell going 5. Malachi Starks going 6. I mean, Malachi Starks had a good combine. I don't know if Pete's going to take him. I mean, maybe. I don't think it's the craziest thing. Mason Graham out at 7 seems a little interesting. Michael Williams, Will Johnson still going top 10. His measurables, we'll see. Tyler Warren, top 10. I didn't love my Tyler Warren, like the Tyler Warren press session, I got to say. Like, it wasn't terrible, but it was like, lost a little luster for me. Jalen Walker, Ashton Jeanty, Kelvin Banks at 12, Armand Membu at 14, Sharon Ravel, who I think he seemed like a pretty interesting dude. Nathan, I think, listened to some of him speak. Tet McMillan, and then Tyler Booker goes at 17. So here we are, the Seahawks at 18, and Luther Burden's a guy that's got almost no buzz. Like, he used to be a top 10 every time, and now he's like, barely anyone's talked about him this whole week. You've got Matthew Golden. You've got Derek Harmon, Nick Emenwari. You guys know what I'm going to force us to do here, but we're going to talk about it like there's options. The point of this mock, because Nathan's joined late, we're going to try to stick a little bit with guys that have been linked to the Seahawks. That we, like, where possible, if we know that they've met with them, we want to try to have that be a guiding factor. So Cam Williams is a guy Nathan talked to and has met with the Seahawks. Jahdae Barron's pretty low on this list. There's Jahad Campbell. Shamar Stewart is still there.
Stewart the guy they talked to? I don't remember now.
What's that?
Stewart was the guy they talked to?
They did. Yep. I talked to him, and he confirmed that they did meet with him. Jackson Dart, Donovan Jackson. So this is the only pick where I'm going to be heavy-handed. We're going to take Nick Emenwari unless anybody has, like, I want to hear arguments against, but we're going to take him because I want to see how the draft board falls when we do that. But what would you guys do? Jeff, what would you do here? Oh, you're on mute. You're still, I can't hear you.
I was going to say, though, while Jeff figures out his audio, we should put the question to Jeff that we were bouncing around. In this scenario where both Emenwari and Stewart are on the board, who do you take?
Jeff? Oh, we had you, and then you just, like, I think we had the volume, and then Are you back? Jeff? Oh, Jeff's going to come back. Nathan, who would you take here?
Let's do Evan Worry. I know that's what you want to do.
We will, but who would you pick? Who would you pick?
I still think I lean Stewart, just a slight thing with the positional value, but I mean, I don't think there's a wrong answer here.
Is there any part of you that feels like they should take an offensive lineman here?
Yeah, I mean, so, and we see this differently. I know Josh Simmons is a guy I would definitely take here. That would be my pick if the board fell this way.
All right, Jeff.
It would be hard for me to pass John Campbell here. I really like John Campbell. I don't think he's going to be there at 18. I would probably trade back in the spot between like Kenneth Grant, Barron. But I think Loveland's going to go in the top 15. I think that's the buzz people are saying in the combine. So
I think when you came back in, your mic is not selected. So if you can just check in your settings, get back to your headset mic, that would be great. We are going to take, no surprise here, Nick Emanwari.
Right.
So let's see how things fall now that we've drafted a safety in the first round. All right. So here we are at 50. Wyatt Millam's already gone. I mean, Donovan Jackson's gone. There's Jahad Campbell all the way down
44.
here. Darian Porter was super unimpressive. Nathan and I think both agree on that. Yeah. Marcus Bowe's gone. Gray Zabel's gone. Jonas Savanaya's gone. So this is the thing. This is what we got to stare in the face. Guys that are linked. I don't think Landon Jackson met with them. Jackson Dart did. Azariah Thomas did.
Can't go Makuba now.
You can't take another safety.
Jaden Higgins, did he?
I don't know if he met with them or not. Tate Ratledge did. We could go Tate Ratledge here. Gunnar Helm. We could go, let's see. Scrolling through, I mean, there's not a lot of guys. Jalen Knoll. Could go Jalen Knoll here.
Yeah, I think this mock specifically, I think, Brian, this is the one where we got trapped last time. They always really push up the offensive lineman. And we get caught in round 2 in this specific simulator every time.
I really wonder, though. I'm suspicious that could be true.
Yeah.
Me and Brian were talking about this yesterday, right? And when we were talking about this with Ryan, he was talking about how some of these guys are so specialized or so unique, and they do these different things, and so a player's value is really going to be, in the eye of the beholder. Whereas with offensive line, everybody needs offensive line. Everybody wants offensive line, and so I wonder if we're going to see a situation like this. And even some of this, like Donovan Jackson at 47, seems unrealistic.
Yeah, that seems low.
Yes, I mean, Tate Ratledge is probably the highest ranked guy that they've been linked to. I will tell you, like, the way I look at this, we know that they met with a number of corners, and I know this is not like, this is going against need, but they do need some help at corner. Max Hairston, if you're talking about adding a great player, of the guys we're looking at here, I think Nathan, you and I were both just like, that was a great player.
He was fun.
But can you start a draft safety corner?
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you're talking about taking, like, I think he has blue chip upside.
He looked incredible moving yesterday, but my God, if you want to lose the fan base, like a safety corner.
Yeah, there's a lot of guys I like here. It's just so hard with everything, with the offensive line left after Tate. It's so hard not to take him here.
Okay, but Jackson Dart, he is linked to them. He is available. Do you have to take him here?
And then put him behind the same offensive line that.
These are the questions, guys. This is why I wanted to see how this board. We'll do another one after this where we'll get to maybe play it differently and when we will use a different sim. But like, I think this is a valid thing for us to grapple with, and I think the Seahawks have to grapple with. Tate Ratledge is not the prospect that Jackson Dart is, and he's not at a position value that's close. I think that is doing exactly what they said that they shouldn't do, which is pushing up need. I think Max Hairston is, I think I'd say by far the best prospect available on this list. Like, I think he's a first round talent. And if he was there at 50, okay, so now we have the best secondary in the NFL. It's not even close. Is that like?
Well, it's exciting, but like that was kind of the angle they went with when they took Witherspoon. Like, we got Wool and Witherspoon. Like, we're gonna have the best secondary in the NFL, and then they got killed at the line of scrimmage, and it kind of devalued it.
Yeah.
I don't think you could do it.
I feel like you could possibly talk about taking. Let's see if centers. Like, you could probably get Jared Wilson. Like, you could get a center later, but we don't know if they're gonna have already done that in free agency with Drew Dahlman. But if you got Eminwari, Hairston, and then Jared Wilson, I'd feel pretty good about that, to be honest. But yeah, Jeff, I'm going to give you the pick here. Where would you go?
Where are you guys on Azaraku?
I love to watch him. And I think like there's really fair Nick Benito comps. But I think the same questions that people had with Benito that pushed him farther down are fair for Ezaraku. How is he going to get on the field? He's not big. He's not going to play the run very well. So he's going to be a pass rush specialist, and he should be incredible at it. And it's an incredibly important thing, but it's hard for me to do it this high.
Yeah.
By the way, Harold Fannin is also on the list of guys that had a rough combine. For being such a like athletic freak, he ran like a 4.7, like it was a pretty slow 40. So I thought he did not have a great combine. I mean, I'm out on Ursery.
Yeah,
maybe you guys like he's up there. Like, I don't think that's a guy I would pick, but I'm also not into Connerly. A lot of people think highly of him. I'm not a huge Connerly guy.
Like a month ago, I'm like, Connerly's my guy, and then I actually started studying the draft. I'm like, I don't know, he doesn't fit at all. I think I'd take Tate Ratledge here.
You'd take Tate Ratledge. All right,
Yeah.
We'll do it. That would be like the third out of three choices for me. Nathan, what would you do here?
I definitely hear the sirens call of Jalen Knoll here. But I am also a Ratledge guy. I loved watching Hairston. I have not actually watched him play football, and I'm seeing people in the chat saying he's a terrible tackler, which would not surprise me at all with his build. So I would need to definitely study up before I can pull the trigger on him at this point.
All right. I'm not going to be sad to have Tate Ratledge on the team. I worry he is a low ceiling player to be adding in the second round.
That's fair, but I can live with that for offensive line.
I'm checking out to see if he's had his measurements are in 6'6", 308 pounds, 32 and a quarter inch arms. Do not love that. Okay.
Go to all.
Here we are in round 3.
Jaden Higgins.
Jaden Higgins is there. I mean, Omar Lott, we don't have a connection with him yet with the Seahawks. Elijah Arroyo's there. I don't think we have a connection there.
Beck.
Is it Quinn Ewers time?
I think Quinn Ewers could be on the list. We don't know for sure that they've met.
Will Howard?
We don't have verification. We know they haven't met with Anthony Belton. Jared Wilson's there, and they have met.
They could double up.
They could double up. Kobe Bryant is there, and they have met. I love Kobe Bryant. Darius Alexander is there. I don't know. I don't think we got confirmation. Jordan Phillips was one of the most impressive guys I talked to there. Super impressive guy. Probably could get him a little bit later. Demetrius Knight's there. He was super impressive. Yeah, so there's JJ Pegues. Nathan, this is going to be your selection. So who are the 2 or 3 guys you're kind of thinking between?
Yeah, this one's tough. Jaden Higgins, Jalen Royals. I do like Royals more than Higgins, but I did fall in love with a little bit with Higgins, just the person in this process, or talking to him and everything. None of
Will
these.
Howard's there.
Ugh, no. I would hate Will Howard more than I would hate Quinn Ewers, because I feel like there's at least some. You can at least pretend like, well, if Quinn Ewers is healthy, then maybe it's all different. But I don't see it with Howard. I think I gotta go Jalen Royals here. I mean, I think he gives you more of the speed that you probably want to supplement this receiving group with. I don't. He ran something like low 4.4s, I think, so not like incredible, but fast, good size, can make plays on the ball, go up and get it. Little bit of like kind of Golden Tate-ish vibes to him. So
he's close enough to Jalen Noel that I think we can count it as kind of linked to what they're looking for. So
and better size than Noel for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'd really wanted to talk to Shamar Turner. He ended up not speaking to the press, so I couldn't talk to him. But Omar Norman Lott would be a guy for me, but he did not speak. The defensive line day was just a mess. I didn't talk to Elijah Arroyo.
Did Braden Swinson talk to the Seahawks?
I had that up before. I don't think so.
Okay.
So I have to go back. Of the guys here, like the ones that I know did speak to the Seahawks, Jared Wilson, Kobe Bryant.
Ooh, yeah, Jared Wilson's here.
Yeah.
I think to me, Royals is like a second round player, so there's just too much value there for me to walk away from that.
Okay. Jeff, anything you wanted to say before we make the pick?
No, I think wide receiver is kind of the sweet spot here. I think between Besh, Royals, Higgins, I think this is the zone where it makes sense.
Yeah, for me, I don't think I would take a receiver yet. And I think I would probably, in this case, go after Jared Wilson or something like that. But we will take Jalen Royals and see how this is playing out. This is what you get when you get a 3-headed monster draft. It's going to be not. It's like a
none of us are aligned. Yeah.
It's not a book. It's a book that has a different chapter written by a different author. Each chapter written by a different author. So, gonna feel a little disjointed. All right. So here we are in the 4th round. I don't know if Darius Alexander met with the Seahawks. Jordan Phillips talked about Demetrius Knight's there.
Ooh,
loved him. Savion Jones, really like him a lot. Jack Kaiser's there, who I really like a lot.
Seth McLaughlin was somebody that Josh Simmons talked a lot about, and talked about how he's like the smartest player he's ever played with. And when they were in noisy environments, McLaughlin would just say F it and point out every player on the offensive line's assignments. And Simmons was like, I've never seen anything like that before. I haven't watched him much, so I don't know like if he can actually block or not, but high praise there.
It's interesting. I am going to go I don't think we've gotten enough big guys. And so at this point, I have to go that direction. I am going to go a little bit of a different path and take Jordan Phillips. I really loved what I heard from him. And add a big boy in the middle, which I'm always tending to do. So now we get to the 5th round, and we're trying to stick with guys that are either linked to the Seahawks or someone that is close enough to who they've been linked to that we can make the case it's a logical extension. So, Jeff, I think you're up on this one. Ty Robinson's an interesting name, although we just
Ty Robinson. We just took Clay Webb would be really interesting to me to double down at guard.
Clay Webb.
Or Ola there too.
Oladejo's there.
I
we're
think
kind
I
of
would
getting
wanna,
into some of the guys that they did. There's Luke Lachey. Jalen Conyers, probably a little early for him.
Yeah, some of the running backs here are pretty
There's
cool.
your guy, Jackson Haas.
Jackson Haas, I think we can get in the next round.
Yep.
I think I would want Clay Webb here. I think we took a low ceiling kind of guard early. I think I'd kind of counterbalance that a little bit. I think I like Clay Webb. I think he fits the zone scheme really well. Riley Leonard would probably be an interesting dart throw at this point.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Nathan? Anyone that's calling your name?
I saw Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon in there. I like him. But no, I think Clay Webb makes sense.
Yeah, for me it'd be between Clay Webb, Oladejo, and Riley Leonard. Yeah, but I think
Yeah.
Clay Webb's your guy.
Yeah, he's my gut instinct.
Done.
We've
All
been
right.
sniped like several times in this mock, by the way.
I know.
Like even here, Oladejo goes again.
Yep. And so now, Nathan, this is you. I mean, you could Ty Robinson, Cam Jackson. I mean, you could double dip on defensive tackle. That's possible. You got Tim Smith as well. Other guys here. There's Brandon Crenshaw-Dixon. I don't know if we take a third offensive lineman. There's Luke Lachey, the blocking tight end.
Oh, there he is.
Who?
Jalen Conyers.
Conyers?
Yeah, let's do it.
Done. All right, so we've added our do everything, Wildcat quarterback, potentially tight end, potentially fullback as well. That's an interesting one. So now we're back to me. There's Jackson Haas, and he's more of a. This is the guy you're talking about. You loved the way he talked, Jeff. Is that
Yeah,
right?
I think he's the best blocking tight end in this class.
There's Willie Lampkin, Jalen Travis. Nathan, you said had met with the Seahawks, correct?
No, Jalen Rivers.
Oh, Jalen. I keep getting that
There's
mixed up.
Zoff
Frazier. I think this is the move.
Yeah.
I think ceiling wise, like I really liked what I saw from him. I like Carson Vincent. He did not meet with the Seahawks.
Jimmy Horn was really fun to watch.
He was good. Yes, he was good yesterday.
He is. We Willie Lampkin and we Jimmy Horn, but he's another one of those guys. Like, he just moves.
Oh, Tyler Shuck, but I don't think that's realistic.
There's no way he's gonna be available this late. I can't do it. I would take him though for sure. Sorry, finish your thought, Nathan.
Jimmy Horn's fun.
All right, we're taking Zoff Frazier. I think he's a guy that really helped himself this week. Jeff, I think we're back to you. Jackson Haas is still there.
Yeah, Jackson Haas would be tough, but let's go through the list.
We've not taken a linebacker, I don't think. They did not meet with Caleb Rogers, which is kind of surprising, to be honest. I thought I talked to him for a while. He's an impressive guy and has a lot of outside zone experience.
Can you take Carson Bruner here? He's probably a UDFA guy.
Yeah, I think he's UDFA.
Ernst Smith down here.
Yeah, did he help himself this week? Like
he ran fast, but not like elite fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. If he's not elite fast, I'm not sure he gets picked.
I'd probably take Jackson Haas here and double up.
I think that makes sense.
I think he's a guy you can find a role for right away.
All right. Jackson Haas it is. Nathan, you're up, I think, for our final pick. Oh, that was our final pick. So here's our draft. How do you guys feel about this?
I kind of love it.
What do you love about it?
I think, Emin Worry is super exciting. Jalen Royals is a guy I really like. Really clean replacement for Tyler and somebody that you project to be the number 2 with JSN. And the Tate Ratledge thing, I get it. At 50, it's a little steep. Guards are overdrafted and overpaid. So sometimes you got to pull the trigger and do it. But he's a really good player. And I don't feel like we sacrificed anything to take him there, right? The way the rest of this fell with Royals and Phillips and Webb and Conyers, I think that all feels good to me. So while it's a little odd seeing him there at 50, that doesn't sit super great with me. I feel like you got a really good player, a guy that's going to be a leader in the locker room in kind of his own way. And, hopefully can give you quality guard play, at least through a rookie contract. So, I think it's pretty cool.
Jeff, how do you feel about it?
I think the first 4 rounds, they're all solid players, but I don't know if we got I think it's this trick of taking the safety in round 1. It's really hard to get big and strong.
Mm-hmm.
in that spot because you're chasing a lot of the draft after that point. I do think I like it overall because I don't hate Rowledge at 50. I would be comfortable taking him there, but I think like you're not getting a defensive lineman until round 4. I think we did really well getting higher upside guys like Zot Frazier in round 6 and Conyers. I think those are like the kind of guys, Clay Webb, like those are the guys we can look back and be like, maybe those are like those Rams kind of picks that have hit. But I think that's the challenge of really taking the safety in round 1 is that you might be cleaned out of offensive line. And then I think you have to take a Rowledge. I know that's what Schneider hates doing, but you can't end up with the thing where you end up with just we don't have any offensive line. And you see the challenge of two things. You see the challenge of where do you draft a quarterback? Because then you're passing up one of these guys. And how do you get bigger and stronger if you don't take O-line round 1 or 2?
Yeah.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
Or go for it, Brian.
Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if you do think about flipping 18 and 50 and offensive line at 50 or 18 and safety at 50, there's a couple safeties I really like. Kevin Winston Jr. I know you haven't heard of him yet, Brian, but he's from Penn State. Pretty good. I like Makuba a lot, who's maybe even available later than that. And so would I trade this for Josh Simmons and one of those guys maybe later instead and flip it that way? I probably would. But I don't feel bad about this in any way, for sure.
Yeah, my favorite pick in this class is Frazier in 6th. I think that's possibly realistic and could be a Reek Woolen kind of late round, day 3 great get. I like the Clay Webb pick. I like the Jackson Haas pick as well. Like, I think it's a realistic round 7 blocking tight end, could make you tougher, stronger, better run blocking team. I really like Jordan Phillips. I came away so impressed with him. I just think he's going to be a guy that shows out, but I really don't like the Tate Ratledge pick. I feel very differently than you guys. I feel like too low of a ceiling to take in round 2. Like, maybe I'm getting John Schneider infected, but like, I think we passed on a guy in Max Hairston that could be the best corner in this whole class and could help your team, really step forward. And anytime you can add a blue chip player, I think you do. I agree that I think I would have rather, if this read Nick Emanwari, Max Hairston, and Jared Wilson with the first 3 picks, I think I'd feel a lot better about this draft. I think I'd feel better about how that could help the offensive line.
So you're not getting a guard until day 3.
I think that's the thing we have to grapple with. Like, we can change to a different sim, but if this is the way it falls, that might be the reality.
I know. I would rather take the low ceiling guard. I can't watch another year of this.
Can Hairston play outside? Like, I get idea he's a blue chip, but he's a small dude. Is he really going to be a boundary corner for you?
How small is he?
He didn't look big. I don't know. Am I way off on this?
Hold on, I'm a low battery.
He's 6'1". Yeah, he's 6'1", 190 pounds.
No, the combine says different. He came in at 5'11", 183.
Okay, but yeah, I mean that should be fine for an outside corner.
Doable.
But yeah, I mean that's kind of how that felt for me. I think we probably lost Jeff. He's probably got to go back to daddy duty. Let's do one more, Nathan. I assume you've got a moment if we can do one more and see how it falls differently.
Yeah, we'll have to do it in about 15 minutes. But yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we should be able to do this really quick. Yeah. Do you want to do the same sim or should we do a different sim?
Let's do the same one. Just run it back. See.
Okay.
I assume you want to do a like Stewart or offensive line this time around.
Let's see how it goes. You get the first pick, and we will see how it falls differently. Still try to stick with guys that are at least linked to the Seahawks where possible, or at least something that's related to someone they've been linked to. So here they are at 18.
So I'm gonna
Booker's here this time.
Oh, this is Will Johnson, not Will Campbell. Tyler Booker. Okay. Looks like Banks and Simmons are both gone. Is that right?
Banks is gone. It won't let me scroll up. I don't know why it won't, but I can't scroll up. I can look at
Yes.
offensive line.
Simmons must be gone.
No, he's still there.
He's still there. Uh, boy, I think I go. I am pretty intrigued by Booker, but I would take Simmons here.
Tell me, so do you see Simmons as a guard, or are you taking him as a tackle?
I think he can easily play guard. He's big enough, strong enough, and he's someone too where if you do make that move, you're not just getting you're not getting Cam Williams, who is a project at tackle and would be really good at guard. This is a dude who can play left tackle, and now you're getting to plug him in at guard, and I think he would be incredible at it. So yeah, I don't have any hesitation.
Shamar Stewart's here, by the way, just in case you didn't, because I didn't scroll far enough. I just wanted to let you know. So, Simmons?
Yep.
For me, I would, in this situation, Emanwari's there. I think to me, it would be between Booker and Emanwari. And staring it in the face, I think you can make a really strong case for Booker, given the way things have fallen. In the past. So I would still I need to go through a few more drafts where I have Emanwari as the top pick before I have totally come off of that. But I think he's the highest ceiling guy, and so I'd stick with that in round one.
We didn't confirm if Simmons met with Seattle, did we?
I didn't talk to Simmons, so no, I don't know.
And Booker did.
Booker did.
Let's go Booker. Let's keep with the theme at least. Let's do Booker.
Okay. All right. Done. All right, so round two, we've now got our guard, which it does feel a little bit better, doesn't it?
Much better.
And now Gray Zabel's available, interestingly, at this point. Jackson Dart's available. Jonas Savania, they spoke to him. Who else? Go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, if we're going to do a little experiment here, taking a QB here, because it's so easy to pass on these QBs.
Yeah.
And I know you've been saying you think they're going to take one relatively high.
Yeah.
It's your pick, but I do kind of wonder how this, if it is Dart here.
That's where I was going. I think that's the pick. That's where I think they would go. And I think we're going to take Jackson Dart and see how it falls, having done that. So you're up here in round 3. And Mason Taylor is there. He did not meet with them. It's hard looking at guys that I like, but we don't know if they met with him or not. They did not meet with Jordan Birch. They did not meet with Anthony Belton. Ty Felton kind of fit. Oh, there's Jalen Noel.
Feels a little nuts to take. That doesn't feel real.
There's Kobe Bryant. Jordan Phillips.
Is it way too early for Wilson?
For
Wilson?
Where is he?
Right
for
there.
Jared Wilson?
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think it's too early. I mean, it's probably like around too early, but I don't think it's crazy.
Is Jaden Higgins still on the board?
Yeah, Jay Higgins or
No, Jaden.
No,
The
Jay
wide
Higgins.
receiver. He must be
Higgins, the wide receiver.
Yeah, it's maybe early for him.
Let me check. Offense, wide receiver. Does not look like it.
Interesting. All right, let's do Jared Wilson.
Jared Wilson. Okay. Done. Let me find him again. Here he's right here. If this was the case, I think I'd probably go Jalen Noel, but I think
if Jalen Noel's here, I'm running up to the podium to take him for sure. I'm kind of ignoring that he's actually available here. I don't think that'll be true.
You think there's no chance?
Not no chance, but I thought he was like a 3rd round guy before he blew up the combine.
Yeah.
So it feels a little cheaty to do it.
Okay. All right. Let's take Jared Wilson.
Let's lower expectations.
Everyone else tries to come out with these crazy mocks that have all the best players because the things have these flaws.
Right.
Like that we're trying to hold ourselves to some standard. All right. So Charles Grant's there. We didn't get to find out whether he spoke to the Seahawks, right?
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
Jeffrey Bass is there. Savion Jones. I loved Savion Jones. Jabbar Muhammad's there. Uh, Jalen Rivers. I think that's the guy.
I do feel like we did offensive line though. Anything beyond this now, you're actually trying to like find out where they're going to land.
Right, right. So Ty Robinson's there, who I really like. I think you could go Jeffrey Bassa. I think you could go. For people that don't know, Bahashil Tootin, he had a crazy combine running back wise yesterday. Jamari Caldwell's there. This one's tough, Nathan. I
You like
think
CJ West.
I like
Yeah.
Jack Kaiser. I think I go Jack Kaiser here.
I'm not seeing a lot of guys that we have linked to the Seahawks here. This feels like a little bit of a dead spot for that with the guys we talked
It does. It does. So let's go ahead. I'm going to take Kaiser at linebacker. Great coverage linebacker. For me, the comp is Blake Cashman. And now we're here. So what we've picked so far, Tyler Booker, Jackson Dart, Jared Wilson, and Jack Kaiser. That's really solid so far.
Mhm.
Now who?
Kind of. Let's see
We've
who's
not
here.
gotten a defensive tackle yet.
That's what I'm
There's
thinking.
Edge and Oladejo. Dana's favorite, Tonka Hemingway.
Martha Hemingway. Yeah.
Upton
Ooh.
Stout.
Yeah. I think I'm going Upton Stout here.
I love that pick. I love it. I always love an
I have a hard
Upton Stout
time.
pick.
I haven't watched enough some of these other guys, so Upton
Let's
Stout.
do it. All right. So we have not taken a big nasty on the defensive side. So I think I'm thinking going into this defensive tackle. There's Peoples. I didn't get any information that he met. I think this is where Ty Hamilton's there. I'm taking Ty Hamilton. Now he's a little bit on the lighter side, but I just think this guy is tough, fast. Had a great Senior Bowl and really had a great combine. All right, so we've got a defensive tackle. Now you're up. There's Conyers. There's Willie Lampkin.
Yeah. I would kind of want to take Jaw Joyner here, but I don't know he really fits for Seattle, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard not. This feels like such a sweet spot to pull the trigger on Conyers. He potentially fills a starting position for them, fullback, and gives them some creativity. And so I don't know. It's hard not to do that again.
All right, let's do it. Jalen Conyers. So done. Now we're in the final pick here. And I really liked Mac McWilliams. I think we both kind of liked him yesterday, the cornerback.
I was higher on Ransaw, who's also here.
Yeah, Ransaw's here as well.
He had a little bit of like a muscle hamster thing going for him. That was cool and did well on the drills and everything.
Let me just check to see other names. Tyler Shuck's still here, which is just stupid.
Andrew Armstrong, I think I love him. He's 6'4". He ran well at the combine. 9'4" RAS. Now he's older, and so the upside maybe isn't quite as high as it seems, but I think he's a really good player. As in like a mid-round pick. Like he's not.
Yeah. And there's Kyle Williams. I think I'm gonna go with a guy that I just liked. Did we take any corners? Oh, we did take Upton. Oh man, I don't know if I could make the case.
It's 7th round. Like you're not.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna do something way off. I'm gonna take Trevor Etienne.
I don't think that's
guys.
bad.
I'll laugh me, but this is a guy that I think really fits outside zone. He had a good 40 time yesterday, and I can see the Seahawks spending a 7th round pick on that position just to get more more competition and more depth.
We can
So
get the back into the draft Georgia running backs beating out Kenny Walker and
exactly, Kenny McIntosh, Trevor Etienne, just get them all. So this draft, Nathan, Tyler Booker, Jackson Dart, Jared Wilson, a lot of Jacks, a lot of J's, Upton Stout, Ty Hamilton, Jalen Conyers, Trevor Etienne. How do you feel about this one compared to the last one?
it's not as sexy to me, and that might just be Royals. Again, that pick 50, whether it was Tate Ratledge or Jackson Dart, it doesn't actually feel that bad to do something different there. And we'll see if the rest of it all falls this way. But then, to turn around and get Wilson, I don't actually particularly love the Kaiser pick. But then you're still getting Stout, you're still getting Conyers. You're getting interesting guys throughout. So I don't know. Would you take this one over the first one we did?
On initial blush, yes. I feel much better with Tyler Booker at the top. Is there's this okay, fine. We got a guy that's gonna be a really good guard. I feel good about that. We're not gonna feel like we missed. Jackson Dart at 50 feels like a wise move, like a wise investment, and could pay off. Jared Wilson, I actually don't hate him in the third round here. And I think the idea of Jared Wilson next to Booker, I love that actually. And I think you've really helped the offensive line. And then I'm a big fan of Jack Kaiser. I think he's starting caliber. Upton Stout, we've talked about. Ty Hamilton, I think, is one of the more underrated defensive tackles. Jalen Conyers, we've talked about. Trevor Etienne. Not only do I like this draft, it feels actually plausible. This could happen.
I do feel like the upside, though. I mean, Jackson Dart obviously is a huge wild card. If you get a top 10 quarterback out of him, then the upside's amazing. But the upside does feel better with the first one, with Emin Wari especially, Jalen Royals, even taking a lower upside guy in Ratledge. What you're realistically going to get out of Ratledge is probably much more than what you'll probably get out of Dart, which you're probably not going to get anything on Dart. He's probably not a starting quarterback.
Probably.
So the Ratledge thing doesn't feel bad to me in comparison to a Dart pick, even though Dart does have that very small 99th percentile outcome.
Well, Nathan, I know you got to run. Safe travels back. Thank you for all your work this week, and we will see you when you get back to Seattle.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you again for the opportunity. I had a blast doing this, so it was really cool.
And thank you to your wife and family for making it possible.
For sure.
All right. That was Nathan Ernst. Folks, 2 hours almost have gone by. I think there's some super chats I want to make sure I don't miss. And here's one from, this is from Kevin Carlson. Says, any new thoughts on tight end? Oh, no, we already did all this. We did all the super chats. I thought we had new ones. So yeah, I'm going to have to play more with those mocks this coming week. We will have Dane Brugler on at some point this week. I think we'll have Robert Mays on this week. We're going to have some good guests on as well. Talk about where their thoughts are, where their heads are, how things are going. I'm going to go listen and watch some of the linemen do some of the combine stuff. We'll see how that plays out. But I feel like a lot more informed about what I think the Seahawks might do and what they should do. Hopefully you do as well. If you have not already given the show a like and click subscribe, please do. Also, I haven't told you in a while, head on over to jkboots.com. Use code HawkBlogger, get 10% off, get the best pair of boots you're ever going to own. These are Washington-made, Spokane, family-owned business. They've got 300,000 subscribers on their YouTube channel because people are so infatuated with the leather work that they do. It is world famous. So support a local, Northwest company and get 10% off and get a chance to win a Seahawks themed pair of boots that only you will have, and help Northwest Forest firefighters. We have given away multiple boots to Northwest Forest firefighters as well as LA firefighters. Based off of all the work you guys have done and all the great boot buying you've done. We've been able to donate a lot to charity. So head on over to jkboots.com, use code HawkBlogger. We are closing in on 15,000 subscribers. A quick refresh. We need 49 more people to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We will hit 15,000, which would be great. And then we got a quick super chat from Robbie Red, says, let's get ourselves a return specialist. Great show. Thank you, Robbie, for that. Thanks to everybody. I will see you all very soon. Until then, this has been episode 342 straight days of Seahawks content from me here at Hawk Blogger. Take care.